My name's Jonah. I'm 29, and I guess you could say I'm the black sheep of the family. Not because I'm a failure or anything. Far from it. I just stopped playing the game they all agreed on. Smile, nod, pretend everything's fine even when it's not. I was never good at pretending, not even as a kid. My family, on the other hand, masters of it. Perfect smiles, polite digs, and years of making me feel like I was less than because I didn't follow the path they laid out. I'm the youngest of three. My sister Lila is the golden child with the picture-perfect husband, 2 kids, and a Pinterest-worthy house. My brother, Evan, lives in Arizona, works in finance, and thinks that makes him a philosopher. I didn't go corporate. I didn't marry young. I didn't buy a house in the suburbs and post about my Sunday brunch. What I did do was start a tech company straight out of college. Lived broke for years, worked from a basement, survived off ramen and self-doubt. But it paid off. Quietly, steadily. I never posted about it, never flaunted it. I just built. And I've done well. Well enough that when my parents hit a financial snag 3 years ago and almost lost their house, I stepped in without hesitation. They never said thank you. Not really. My mom called it helping the family and treated it like a loan she never intended to repay. My dad avoided the subject entirely. But I kept paying. Rent, maintenance, even covered some of their credit card debt. I didn't do it for recognition. I did it because they were my parents, and I didn't want them to lose their home. Simple as that. Still, it stung. Especially at gatherings, like this reunion, when they'd talk about Lila's new countertops or Evan's latest promotion, but my name barely got a mention. Like what I did wasn't real because it didn't come with a title or a mortgage. It had been years since I'd brought a date to one of these things. Too many times I watched someone I cared about get that look from my mom. The one where she smiled too hard and asked too many questions designed to expose some imagined flaw. I stopped trying. This reunion was no different, or at least, I thought it wouldn't be. It was at my aunt and uncle's house, one of those sprawling ranch-style homes in the suburbs, all open-concept living and blessed signs above the mantel. I arrived late on purpose, the kind of late that avoids the awkward milling around phase but still counts as making an effort. The backyard was packed, long tables with plastic tablecloths, kids chasing each other with squirt guns, someone grilling under a pop-up canopy. I nodded at a few cousins, waved at an aunt. My mom saw me first. She gave me that half hug she reserves for moments when someone might be watching. "Oh, you made it," she said, like I'd RSVP'd no and showed up anyway. "Wouldn't miss it," I said, setting down the bottle of wine I brought on the gift table. Not that anyone would notice. The first hour passed in a blur of small talk and polite judgment. Lila talked about her oldest getting into a gifted program, and Evan was holding court near the grill, explaining the economy to people who hadn't asked. I kept to myself, sipping lemonade and pretending not to hear the occasional, "Is Jonah still freelancing?" from relatives who didn't understand what I did and didn't care to. Then came the moment that shifted everything. I was standing near the buffet table, loading my plate with fruit, when my Uncle Peter, my dad's older brother and lifelong master of the backhanded compliment, sauntered over. He clapped a heavy hand on my shoulder and said, loud enough for everyone around us to hear, "You still living off your parents, kid?" I blinked. "Excuse me." "You know, crashing at home, eating mom's lasagna, playing video games all day." He laughed, elbowing the guy next to him. "Must be nice not having bills." I felt the air shift. A few heads turned. My cousin Julie gave me an awkward smile, like she wasn't sure if she should laugh too. And then, as if she'd been waiting for the perfect moment, my mom chimed in from across the table. "Well, he could never really make it on his own," she said, not looking at me, stirring her iced tea like it was just another day. I froze. It wasn't the first time she'd said something like that, but it was the first time she said it like a punchline. Like a joke that didn't need context because everyone already believed it. And that's when something in me snapped. Not with anger. Not with some grand, emotional outburst. Just a quiet, steady click, like a lock turning. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. "Funny," I said, holding it up so they could see. "Because their lease renewal depends on me." The laughter died immediately. Even the kids went quiet. My dad looked up from his conversation. My mom finally turned toward me, her glass halfway to her lips. My uncle's smile twitched. I tapped the screen. Slowly. Deliberately. "Want to see something cool?" I asked. No one answered. I opened the property management app, the one I'd been using to cover their rent for the past 3 years. It showed the unit, the upcoming renewal, and one single button. Cancel, I read aloud. Just like that. No one moved. I let the moment hang there. Let it sink in. I didn't hit the button. Not yet. I just stood there, holding it in the air, daring anyone to laugh again. For the first time in years, they didn't know what to say. My mom opened her mouth, then closed it again. My dad furrowed his brow like he didn't understand what he was seeing, but I knew better. He understood. They all did. I gently lowered my phone and slipped it back into my pocket, but the silence held. Somewhere behind me, a bird chirped. Someone's kid asked for a juice box. But at that table, at that moment, the world had stopped turning. I didn't walk away. I wanted to see what they'd do, how they'd pivot. My Uncle Peter coughed and tried to smile, like he could laugh it off. Ah, come on, Jonah. Just teasing. You know that, right? I tilted my head. Sure, just like I'm teasing. His chuckle was thin. My mom set her tea down. Too hard. The ice clinked against the glass. You don't need to make a scene, she muttered. I didn't, I said calmly. You did. I just responded. I didn't mean it that way, she added, folding her arms. It was a joke. I shrugged. So was mine. Depends who's laughing, right? My dad finally spoke. Jonah, this isn't the time. No, I said, my voice a little sharper now. Actually, this is exactly the time. Because if I said this in private, you'd pretend you never heard it. Like you pretended not to see every payment I made. Like you pretended it was your house when you couldn't even pay the water bill. The words were bitter, yes, but not shouted. I kept my voice low, steady, just loud enough to carry to the people who needed to hear it. You didn't ask for my help, I continued. You expected it, and I gave it. Every month. Quietly. Without resentment. Until now. My sister Lila looked away. Evan was watching me with that smug, detached look he wore when someone mentioned student debt or healthcare. He leaned forward. You know, he said, we all struggle sometimes. But it's not cool to throw things in people's faces. Especially your parents. I looked at him. Really looked. You live in Scottsdale with your third Tesla and a wine fridge in your bedroom, Evan. Don't talk to me about struggle. He bristled, but I didn't let him interrupt. I never asked for anything. Not once. You all assumed I failed because I didn't brag. Because I didn't shove my success in your face. And you liked it that way. You liked having someone beneath you. No one said that. My mom whispered. I looked at her. Then why'd you say I could never make it on my own? She didn't answer. So let's be clear. I continued. You don't get to insult me and rely on me. You don't get to mock me in front of the family while sleeping in a home I pay for. Not anymore. Peter spoke up again, half joking, half pleading. So you're just gonna evict your own parents? I'm just gonna stop protecting people who think I'm a joke. There it was. Simple. Honest. And yet, it felt like I'd taken a sledgehammer to the family tree. I turned then, finally ready to walk away. I hadn't realized how tense my shoulders were until I felt them drop. I left my plate untouched, left the wine bottle on the table, walked through the crowd of stunned silence and fake smiles, past my cousin pretending to check his phone, past the aunt who gave me a sad little smile like she always liked me, really. I didn't stop until I reached the front gate. As I pulled it open, I heard footsteps behind me, fast, awkward, desperate. It was my mom. Jonah, wait, she said. I turned, slowly. She looked smaller somehow, her perfectly curled hair shifting in the breeze. She tried to smile. Can we just talk about this? We could have, I said. Years ago. She hesitated. I didn't know you felt this way. You didn't want to know. She looked down. So what now? I pulled out my phone again. That depends, I said, opening the app. Do you want to treat me like family or like a wallet? The screen blinked, the options still open. Renew. Cancel. Behind us, the door creaked open again. My dad stepped out, then Lila. Evan followed. One by one, they stood at the top of the steps, watching. No one said a word. And right there, in that stillness, my thumb hovered over the screen. Then I tapped. But not that button. Not yet. Just the back arrow. Just to close it. Because they weren't ready. But I was. And that's when Evan, smug as ever, decided to speak. What? Trying to guilt trip everyone now. Real mature. I turned around, slowly, and smiled. Funny, I said. That's not what the email says. Their faces twisted in confusion. I held up my phone one last time. I already canceled it, I said. And I walked to my car as the shouting started behind me. The first message hit my phone before I'd even made it out of the driveway. Jonah, please don't do this. Can we talk? Then, a minute later, Dad, this isn't funny. You can't just leave us like this. I sat behind the wheel of my car, engine idling, hands resting on the steering wheel. I didn't move, didn't text back, just stared out the windshield at the rows of cars parked along the curb, the manicured lawns, the string lights still flickering in my rearview mirror like nothing had changed. But everything had, and they all knew it. For a while, I just sat there and breathed. Let it wash over me. The silence, the disbelief, the weight finally shifting off my chest. I thought maybe I'd feel guilty. Maybe I'd second-guess myself. But the truth? I felt calm. Not triumphant. Not angry. Just free. But peace doesn't last long in my family. By the time I pulled into my apartment's garage, I had 14 new messages. Most from my mom. A few from my dad. One from Lila. A carefully worded guilt trip about family unity and how I'd embarrassed them all. Evan sent me a single hands clapping emoji. Classic. I ignored them. Made myself tea. Took a long shower. But the messages kept coming. And they changed tone quickly. The first wave was disbelief. Then bargaining. Then guilt. And finally, blame. You always had a temper. I should have seen this coming. Dad, don't come crying to us when you regret this. Lila, I just want to understand why you do something so petty. Petty. That word stuck with me. They thought I'd done this to hurt them. That it was some twisted form of revenge. But the truth? I'd simply stopped protecting them from the consequences of their own choices. I'd finally done what they'd always claimed I wasn't capable of. Put myself first. Still, I couldn't sleep that night. Not because I regretted what I didn't. But because I knew my family, and I knew this wasn't over. I was right. The next morning, my building's front desk buzzed me. There's a woman here, the receptionist said hesitantly. She says she's your mother. Of course she did. I went down. She was waiting in the lobby, sitting stiffly on the couch like she couldn't decide whether she was furious or heartbroken. She stood when she saw me, clutching her purse like it might anchor her. Jonah, she said, forcing a smile. Hi. I nodded. You didn't text you were coming. I didn't think you'd answer. She wasn't wrong. We stood there for a moment in silence, the kind that feels like a dam ready to crack. Then she spoke. Can we sit? I gestured to the chairs by the window. She sat down like she was at a job interview. I wanted to see you face to face, she said. What happened yesterday, that wasn't okay. I raised an eyebrow. Which part? The part where you insulted me in front of everyone, or the part where I stopped paying for your house? Her lips tightened. You didn't have to humiliate us. I leaned back. Neither did you. She looked down at her hands. We were just joking. We didn't realize it would hit a nerve. It didn't hit a nerve, I said. It hit a wall. One I built after years of being treated like I didn't matter. Her eyes glistened. You matter. I laughed once. Dry and humorless. No. I matter when it's convenient. When you need something. When you need me. That's not true, she whispered. I pulled out my phone. Do you want to see the payment records? Jonah, please, she said, her voice cracking. We didn't mean to. You never mean to, I interrupted. But you do. Over and over. She blinked back tears, but I didn't soften. Not this time. We raised you, she said quietly. We sacrificed a lot. And I repaid it. Tenfold. Quietly. Without throwing it in your face like you did to me. There was a long pause. Then she said it. Your father and I have nowhere to go. I looked at her. Really looked. The woman who used to braid my hair for picture day. The woman who used to sing along to old records in the kitchen. The woman who, somewhere along the line, started seeing me not as her son, but as a safety net. That's not true, I said calmly. You have a place to go? You just don't want to downgrade. Her jaw clenched. You can sell the house, I offered. Move somewhere smaller. Get a roommate. Apply for assistance. Plenty of options. Her voice rose. We're your parents. I know, I said. And I was your son, not your accountant. That landed hard. She stood, shakily. So this is it. You're cutting us off. No, I said. I'm setting boundaries. If you want a relationship with me, it won't be one built on guilt and bank transfers. It'll be real, honest, maybe even painful, but it'll be earned. She didn't respond. I walked her to the door. She paused at the threshold. I just didn't think you'd ever do something like this, she whispered. I know, I said. That's why I had to. She left without another word. For the rest of the day, I was quiet. I didn't take calls. I didn't post online. I just thought about how long I'd been holding up their world while they chipped away at mine, and how strange it felt to finally stop. But around 9 p.m., I got a new text. Not from my mom. Not from my dad. From my Uncle Peter. Uncle Peter, Jonah, you might want to check the lease again. I stared at the message, confused. My heart thudded. Then another text came in. Uncle Peter, they're not the only names on the contract. And just like that, the ground beneath me shifted again. My stomach dropped as I reread my uncle's message. They're not the only names on the contract. I opened the property management app and pulled up the lease agreement. Scanned the names at the top. Margaret N. Blake. Roger T. Blake. Peter A. Blake. Peter, my uncle. I just stared at it for a moment, unable to blink. I hadn't noticed his name before because the original lease had only been under my parents, and when I renewed it last year through my LLC, I never thought to double-check the occupants. But sometime in the past 12 months, Peter had gotten himself added to the lease. I didn't know how. I didn't know when. But it was there, clear as day. And that changed everything. Canceling the lease wouldn't automatically kick him out, not without a formal eviction process. And because Peter was now on the lease, he could contest the cancellation. Worse, he might have already filed something to block it. And suddenly, it all made sense. His smug grin when he said, "Ah, come on, just teasing." His little cough. The way he went quiet instead of escalating like he usually did. He knew. He wanted me to make a scene. Because it would make me look unstable, impulsive, unreasonable. If things went legal, that would matter. I sat on my couch in the dark, phone glowing in my hand, as the pieces clicked into place. Peter had always been jealous of my dad, the younger brother who'd inherited the family home, the attention, the respect. Peter moved around a lot, never owned anything, always had some shady side hustle going. And when my parents nearly lost their house 3 years ago, guess who helped them negotiate the new lease? Guess who introduced me to the property manager? I hadn't paid attention at the time. Just signed what they sent. Paid the bills. Trusted them. That was my mistake. Now they were using that trust against me. I closed the app. Pulled up my texts. Me? Why is your name on their lease? The reply came almost instantly. Uncle Peter, I'm part owner now. Made it official last year. You should have read the paperwork, kid. Part owner. Of what? The lease? The LLC? The property? I opened my files. Scanned the documents. Lease agreement, signed. Monthly payments, sent from my company account. But then I found the amendment form from last November. A one-page update filed with the management company, authorizing the addition of Peter A. Blake as a legal tenant and representative. The signature next to it? Mine. Except, it wasn't my handwriting. My jaw tightened. My heart started racing. They'd forged it. I stared at the signature for a long time, rage boiling up through my spine. They forged my signature. And no one noticed. Because I never checked. Because I trusted them. I barely slept that night. I tossed and turned, imagining Peter bragging about how clever he was. My mom's wide-eyed denial. My dad's silence. How many times had they let him speak on their behalf? How many decisions had he made with my name? By morning, I'd made a decision of my own. I called my lawyer. His name's Victor. Mid-40s, sharp, no nonsense. Helped me set up my company years ago. I told him everything. The lease, the forged amendment, the payments, the sudden discovery that my uncle had maneuvered his way into partial control of a home I was funding. Victor didn't say much. Just asked for the documents and told me to meet him at his office. By noon, we were reviewing the paperwork together. He confirmed what I feared. If the property management company had accepted the amendment with a forged signature and processed it, the lease was now legally binding with Peter as a co-tenant, which meant I couldn't cancel it without his approval or without court intervention. I can file a fraud claim, Victor said. We'll need a handwriting analysis, a forensic expert, and it'll get messy. But if we prove it's forged, we can void the lease and maybe press charges. I nodded. Do it. He looked up from his notes. Are you sure? This could get very public. I'm beyond sure. He smirked. Good. Let's rattle some cages. Over the next few weeks, the legal process churned to life. I stayed quiet. My parents, meanwhile, had no idea what was coming. Peter certainly didn't. They thought the silence meant I was giving in, that I'd overreacted and backed off, just like I always did. But I wasn't backing off. I was giving them rope. I stopped payments. Let the bills bounce. Let the management company notify them of a pending lapse in coverage. They started calling again, first politely, then panicked. I didn't answer. 3 weeks later, Peter sent another text. Uncle Peter, what's going on with the lease? Me. Ask your lawyer. An hour later, Victor got a call from Peter's attorney. The panic was real now. Peter hadn't expected this. He thought I'd be mad, but not dangerous. Not methodical. Not prepared. But I was. When the forensic expert concluded the signature on the amendment wasn't mine, we filed fraud claims. We included emails, texts, financial records, and a formal affidavit from the property manager confirming they'd received the document directly from Peter, not me. We demanded immediate removal of his name and nullification of his influence over the lease. And it worked. Peter backed down first. He signed a settlement agreement and walked away quietly, trying to avoid criminal charges. I didn't press. I didn't need to. Then I met with the property manager. You're terminating the lease? She asked, a little surprised. I'm not just terminating it, I said. I'm buying the building. It wasn't impulsive. I'd been eyeing investment properties for a while. And after everything they'd put me through, it felt fitting, poetic, even, to own the very roof they took for granted. It took months of negotiations, paperwork, and inspections. But I had the capital. I had the motivation. And when the sale closed, I stood outside the duplex that my parents had once treated like theirs, keys in hand, and felt nothing but clarity. I didn't evict them right away. I gave them a formal notice, 90 days. Legal, professional, fair. They tried to call. I didn't answer. They sent letters. I returned them, unopened. Eventually, my mom texted me one last time. "Mom, we don't understand why you're doing this." I read it 3 times, and finally replied, "Me. Because I finally realized you never saw me as family. Just a paycheck." She didn't respond. When the move-out day came, I wasn't there. I sent a property manager to handle it. She told me later that they left quietly. No scene, no shouting, just silence. Maybe they finally understood. Maybe not. It doesn't matter. Because now, when I visit the building, it's mine. The tenants in the other unit are kind. A retired couple who pay on time and leave cookies outside their door for the mail carrier. The unit my parents once lived in is empty now, freshly painted, the carpets replaced. Clean slate. Just like me. For the first time in my life, I'm not carrying anyone. And I've never stood taller.